And welcome back to America Talks Live. I'm Bill Tucker, filling in for Steve today. Joining me now, David Henderson. He's a retired public affairs and press consultant. He's the author of a new book, The Arkansas Project, From the United States JCs to the United States Justice Department and Whitewater. David, thank you very much for being here. Appreciate you. You're down in Olive Branch, Mississippi, I believe, as a matter of fact. So if you've got too much of a southern accent, you're going to probably draw it out of me, as a matter of fact. Whitewater. Boy, that gave me a flashback. Why did you write a book on Whitewater?
Well, I was involved in it, Bill. I was on the board of directors of the American Spectator at that time, and we were involved in doing some reporting on the Whitewater case. And after Ms. Lewinsky came on the screen and Drudge identified her, the Plan B went out to conspirators from continuing in their work, and Hillary went on the Today Show with Matt Lauer and identified that they had a plan in process, and she seemed to approve of the Lewinsky affair. She did not believe Bill was lying about it. And we wound up finding out shortly thereafter that the main person in the Whitewater investigation that was cooperating with the independent counsel, then the special prosecutor, was a judge, Little Rock judge named David Hale. Turned out that I had known David from the USJCs. He had once been a national president. And I realized that I could have contact with him and probably find out a lot about the story that other journalists couldn't, and that's the way it turned out. And we started a program that at the American Spectator, some of the staff dubbed the Arkansas Project. That wasn't really what it was.
Yep.
But that's what it became called.
Well, it's very interesting because I was involved in the newsroom at the time, and it took a tremendous amount of interest in Whitewater. And the reason I started the conversation with why did you go revisit it, it was really and truly, David, a story that smelled really bad. You couldn't quite wrap your fingers around it to explain the extent of sort of rottenness that you felt was there. It is a difficult one to present in an understandable form to people. Do you think that you finally found a key to that in this book?
Well, I think certainly I've told the story in a different way than anyone else has ever done it, because I did have the access to a lot of people that others did not. I wrote the manuscript for this shortly after the affair ended, and of course I was accused of bribing the witness, David Hale, and I had to go before the Whitewater grand jury on a couple of occasions. And I'd like to point out that my lawyer at that time that went with me to Fort Smith, Arkansas on 2 occasions was a gentleman named Richard Leon, who was a partner at Baker Hostetler in Washington, now a federal judge on the D.C. court. And haven't seen him for years, but if he's listening, hi, Dick.
You know what I think is really interesting, and I was flipping through the book and reading it sort of in random shots before we started this interview. You raise up one thing that has been continuous throughout all of time here regarding the Clintons. They are people who like to present themselves as just plain ordinary folk who don't have that much and who live pretty modestly, all the way through to Clinton telling us about 6 months ago, or not, about a year ago actually, that she and Bill were just dead broke, and they understood how everybody felt. That's not the case. It's never been the case, and you make that point clear. Is that sort of the thread you use to tie all of this together to get people to understand this deal?
Well, yes, I hope so. I do know that avarice and money are the results of that family, and they've continued it very well, and I think hope to continue it. And I'm personally hoping that doesn't happen, but I suspect more recriminations now that I've written this book. I've been cleared from one accusation. I think I can survive another at my age.
Well, you know, all publicity is good publicity. So, you know, they now have a choice. Do we just ignore the Arkansas Project, we ignore that book, or do we again, you know, continue to pursue David and give him some publicity, and people might read this book? So somehow, I think they're probably going to err on the side of maybe we got to be quiet this time around.
I don't think so. I know that there are a lot of people who still have a lot of questions, and hopefully I've answered many of them in that book. The principles of that operation were Richard Mellon Scaife, who provided the resources for the program, the president of his foundation, Richard Larry, my best friend, Steve Boynton, who was an attorney who worked with me on it, and Parker Dozier, who was the fellow that operated the bait shop in Arkansas, and Rex Armistead, the private investigator from Mississippi. All of those people are deceased. I am the last person alive who can tell this story and continue to tell it, because I actually led the operation and knew all of the aspects of it.
Well, David, we hope and wish you best success. David, author of The Arkansas Project, from the United States JCs to the United States Justice Department and Whitewater. Thank you, David, for joining us. And that does it for this edition of America Talks Live from New York. I'm Bill Tucker, sitting in for Steve Malzberg. We both wish you a great weekend.